Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the book of James. Today we're looking at the last paragraph of the 4th chapter of James, and that is found in verses 13 through 17. Hear what James says in these verses. Now listen, you who say, tomorrow or today we will go to this or that city, we will spend a year there, we will carry on business, we will make money. Why, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? Your mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, then we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogant schemes. All such boasting is evil. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do, and they do not do it, that is sin for them. An interesting paragraph. And in this paragraph, James is warning the believers against a certain arrogance. The arrogance that assumes you always know what the future holds, that you always know what is going to happen today and tomorrow and the coming days, and that you can base your life on what you think you know. That's what makes you say, well, you're planning to do this today, you're planning to do this tomorrow, but how do you know what the day will hold? Only the Lord knows what is to come. Only the Lord knows what the future might unfold to be. So live in humility, saying, if it's the Lord's will, I'll carry forth this plan. If it's the Lord's will, I will walk this way. But I do not know the future. He does. So I must humbly depend on Him. You know, pride and arrogance can come about in a number of ways. We often think of pride as just thinking more of ourselves than we ought to think, and certainly that is pride. But here James is talking about a pride or an arrogance that just assumes we always know what is going to happen and what the future will be. And we can proceed with no thought whatsoever of the Lord and how He is in charge and how He determines what will be. So James encourages us to live a life of humility. Live in absolute dependence. Only God knows what will unfold. Your life is in His hands. Now, you're absolutely safe being there, but you must realize that everything is in His hands. So don't arrogantly assume you know what tomorrow will hold. Simply say, it's in the Lord's hands, and I trust myself to His hands. Therefore, if it is the Lord's will, I'll do this and that. I'll plan for the future, but always knowing that my knowledge is far from perfect. And about the future, it is very incomplete, obviously. But it's all in the Lord's hands. So I will live in humble dependence upon Him. Now that's a good place to be. When in humility, I am absolutely dependent upon the Lord, then I'm in a good place, I'm in a safe place, and I can simply live my life fully. Even though I don't know what all the future might bring, I can live my life fully because I know it's in the Lord's hands. Now, the last verse of this chapter is rather interesting because he says, well, anyone who knows the good they ought to do and does not do it, well, that's sin. What's he talking about here within the context? Well, he's talking about that, again, that sin of arrogance. When we know that we ought to just humbly depend upon the Lord, and yet we proceed as if we know all things ourselves, that becomes sinful. And I'm depending on what I think is my knowledge of the future rather than simply humbly dependent upon God, then I know what is right, but I'm not doing it. So pride leads us to a bad place. Pride, arrogance, false assumptions about the future can lead us to sin. Rather, we should simply, in humble dependence, rely on the Lord for all things. For He is able to keep us. He is able to oversee our lives. It is He who directs the future. And when we live in absolute dependence on Him, then we are safe and secure. And that's a good place to be. Hope you join us tomorrow as we continue our 5-minute Bible study in the book of James. We'll start looking at chapter 5. So I hope you join us for our next session in our Bible study of James.